So every show I play a little bit of guitar. In the past couple segments I mentioned there was a petition. It was more like a request. It was my life was aimed until January 2002. My life, the direction in my life was to be a submarine pilot, not in the Navy, but as a taxi driver, driving or crew membering a submarine that would go to the Long Island Underwater Sound. The under the Long Island Water Sound, there's a research base. There has been since 1940 something, when they were trying to develop ping and sonar for submarine accessories or submarine tools, submarine powers, submarines, gadgets, and things, and more. So the base is still there, and Bill Clinton was putting into action. Within 5 to 10 years, it would no longer be a military base, because quite some time between 1990 something and 1940 something, it was a military base. It was a military research base. He would be changing it from that into a science and scholars, civilians allowed. So you could anyone, pretty every other person and their mother could buy a ticket to ride on the submarine and explore the base. But of course, between Bill Clinton and now, there was a war. It was between the space aliens of the Brown Mountains and the Venusaurs of another planet close by. No, it was a strike on Manhattan. The Pentagon and Bush Jr. said that base would be used for military once again, and all Bill Clinton's science research on the base down there would be halted. Civilians no longer allowed. I turned into a civil serviceman, medic, police, fire, junior Navy, junior Coast Guard, Boy Scout, Red Cross, Grateful Dead show, and Grateful Dead side band uh, shows, as well as small roller coaster amusement park tours. I did the Hershey Parks, I did the Disneys. I was in high school too, because I needed that diploma, and then I needed some college credits for nuclear engineering, and I got into Yale through passing the advanced physics course with an A, or an A plus. I got an A plus on my final. I got an A on the course all around. I got college credits for Yale, and they said in high school I got college credits into Yale. But a couple months later, before the next school semester started, I was in New York City doing Manhattan Relief as NYPD, and got an injury through the brain. So I started med leave for that. It's been 4,100 days at least, or about, of one prescription medicine pill every 24 hours, at least. For a few years, or for a couple of years, it was one every 12 hours, and something administered once a week. So there's that, and then there was the counseling and all sorts of things that had to go along with being a volunteer civil serviceman for 5 years as a young adult. Um, and then recent things like New London's violence, and Squirrely's fat cousins. I'm not going into that. If anything, Would Rather winds up with Dead Parrot. Yeah, 35-year-old male, last name Carlson. So I've been doing the same old ditties on the same old six string for 26 years now. It's a 30-year-old guitar that Jerry Garcia bought for my dad to give to me when I was large enough to play. And I'm not a guitarist all around. I don't know music theory, but I can make some ditties, some ditties. Yeah, for the speaker. No, the mic. like I said, the parrot died within 72 hours. I'm in the mourning phase, and I will be for the next 2 weeks at least. 2 weeks since I found his body, or 2 weeks since he was buried together as a family in the backyard next to the Samsung crystal. And besides that sounds a bit better. Besides him being my only focus, well, there was Imagination Land Radio, which was he had a microphone, but I'm not sure it was ever recording. And then and then there was my parrot. My parrot loved listening to me play the guitar. He loved it, and he's dead. He was like the only person listening besides the cat and the dog. My nails are long still. I still haven't clipped them. Oh. All right, yeah. So, oh yeah. After all the guitar, I'm not going to get into talking. I'm going to have to go ahead and press the pause button. I know I gave the PSA. We can do talk and review. I know I gave the PSA. I've been playing the same guitar for 26 years. It's a 30-year-old guitar that the Garcia family gave to the Carlson family, me specifically, so that I can play it when I'm large enough to play guitar. Also around that time, Buddy from the New Riders of the Purple Sage was staying in the same few houses that we were staying at. Not that Dad was working with the New Riders of the Purple Sage, but more that pedal steel guitarist from that band was taking time off to help child raise me. His main focus was potty training. His second main focus was teaching me about music, and then there were spiritual aspects. I'm sure that he was in cahoots with Melvin Seals from the Jerry Garcia band, and that would have been my first real tour, and then New Riders of the Purple Sage shows. I don't really remember until going up and forward in time until about 2005, around the same time as the Disney and roller coaster tour, amusement park tour, eventually with climax at the Disney World in Florida, which was rewards for my civil service 2003 4, and I'd have to make sure and stay on that track until 2008 at least, so I could get into college or be a Navy in military service. Military service, you're not eligible until 18. So I was doing civil service volunteer in prep for military. Unfortunately, just a few months into my 18th birthday, after coming into a note saying you're eligible for Iraq and Afghanistan as an Army Ranger, and you can go if you wish. You can fill these out, and your departure will be in a couple months to the Middle East to go shoot Al Qaeda for a living. Um, I declined that, and am still waiting for a copy of my acceptance letter for the United States Navy, if there even is one. I didn't have a copy for it. And before 2008 as well, there was a chance I wound up getting two chicks pregnant that put out with me a baby belly until about 8 months. Not really nine, but like 7.5, 8 months, and then they went and disappeared. And they came back thin as a whistle and said, "Well, I don't know." I don't have birth certificates for either of those, but I know I was, a predominant partner, and it's a good chance that maybe a star, it was a star seed or some kind of Mary angel or something. I don't know. So there was those two, and then there was in 2002 or at the very beginning of 2003, a third kid that grew with a third separate chick. So I don't have birth certificates or any kind of paperwork or documentation for either of those. The final PSA be repeated in the next segment because this one's kind of long. It's about how I've been on a prescription pharmaceutical, newfangled medical technology horse pill, once every 24 hours at least for 4,100 consecutive days with no breaks. And it's not for mental illness, but it's also used in increments of 6 weeks with a 4-month break afterwards. Now that's 3 months for the medicine to leave your system after eating the medicine for six consecutive weeks. That's once a day for 6 weeks, or twice a day for 6 weeks straight, in increment dosage, and then they'd give you 3 months for the medicine to leave your system and a month of clean time. And then, depending on how it had treated the side effects of incurable hereditary genetic mental illness, such as autism, Down syndrome, bipolar, manic depression, schizophrenia, etc., you would either get back on the meds for another 6 weeks with a 4 months space, or stop eating them because obviously they're dangerous for you. They can cause seizures, they can cause sudden death, heart attacks, strokes, heart palpitations, irritable bowels, loss of senses, including blindness, deafness, loss of taste, loss of smell, etc. They'll cause shakiness, muscle twitches, muscle rigidity, everything, including sudden death. Did I mention sudden death? People have died, people have been seriously injured, and people have suffered lifelong injuries from consuming that medicine. I'm lucky that it's agreed with me, at least half-hearted, for this past 4,100 days consecutive, and so that was another PSA. That was another PSA. So it's not for mental illness. Could have been for a head injury, similar to Roman from Chicago PD or Elias from the Vietnam film Platoon. I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of distraction going, and then it's the next chapter, the next segment of the same show, Show 88. Anything running in